right, welcome into the Warchant.com report. I'm Jeff Cameron, joined by, of course, Gene Williams and Corey Clark, both Warchant.com. And hey, we're joining you after a win. How about this, everybody? I should mention that before we get to it all, that, of course, the game against Louisville will be at noon this Saturday. High noon. There you go. RS in the feed. We'll be watching there. Of course, you can also join us for the pregame show, as you've been doing a lot lately on Warchant TV right here on YouTube. You'll see myself and Tom Wang for the pregame show. Postgame show got a little loose, huh, Gene? I bet you did. I saw some of it.
Yes. Oh, yeah, especially by the end there.
You can watch the postgame this week as well on Warchant TV on YouTube. So, again, Florida State, Louisville at noon for the kickoff there. But first, let's review the Noles victory over North Carolina, the number 5 ranked team in the country at the time. 31-28 is the upset win. We can review it, but what we need to know is certainly it was a tale of two halves. But one thing's for certain, both halves. Florida State came out engaged, impassioned. They fought all the way through. The buy-in is evident here. You kind of look back on it now. You saw the signs of it in the second half against Notre Dame. They continued to fight there. Now they have an identity on offense. Gene, the offense managed 13 points against Georgia Tech to start the season. It was abysmal. How did this offense rack up 31 points in the first half? Obviously, as we continue to watch them grow under Kenny Dillingham and what we see from Coach Norvell and that Jordan Travis-led offense right now.
We said it there, Jeff. I mean, the two words, Jordan Travis, the minute he went in to that Jacksonville State game, it's like the light switch just got flipped on. The offense was very different than we've seen the last couple of years. He's just brought so much to the offense because he can do so many different things, and he's got a good feel for the game. But I want to talk – we've talked about that so much. I want to talk about one other thing on the offense, and that is the offensive line. I just never thought I would see this amount of improvement. Look, I don't even know if they're a good offensive line yet, but they're competent. They're decent. And you're seeing, it seems like they're getting better every week. And I was curious, so I went in this week and looked at Football Outsiders. That's one of the advanced metrics places where you can get looks at things, kind of an objective criteria. So I was curious, how did they compare to 2019? All right, line yards, was just checking how many yards they got off there. They are currently number 18. Last year, they were 115. Big difference there. Number 12 in pass line yards, they were 96 in 2019. Number 7 in opportunity rate, which is, I think, the number of times you get 4 yards or more in a rush. They were 66 last year. So every advanced metric you look at, that line is dramatically better. What's so exciting, there's a lot of young guys on that group. And, you know, you got a coach who's obviously good. And I say right now to the administration, lock Alex Atkins down as long as you can, because for a program that's been struggling on the offensive line for so long, you finally got something that works. Man, don't lose it.
Corey, you look on the other side of the football, I actually think they played fairly well given what the criteria is for this defense and how poorly they had played previously. I know they give up 558 total yards. They give up 28 points, but they had 4 sacks. They had all kinds of pressures. I guess if you count pressures 30, it's a lot. They were active in this game. Let's talk about that turnaround. Your thoughts on what we're seeing from the defense right now.
Well, it all starts up front. I don't quite understand. We still haven't gotten a great explanation of what the difference is, other than they were coached to play harder and play with more energy, but they certainly did. Up front was like a different football team. They look like different guys. From the Notre Dame game, and even though we like how they finished that game, the defensive line barely showed up. Durden had a nice moment or two in that game, but other than that, they didn't do much. And in 1 week's time, they looked like what we thought they were going to be all year. They looked dominant at times. And Howell was running for his life all night. Now, he made some plays because he's good, and they made some catches because they're good. That's a good offense, and those guys made some ridiculous catches. But I think it all starts up front, and I thought they competed better. Asante Samuel had a couple big pass breakups, 3 actually, I think, 2 in the end zone. And it had been so easy for Miami and Notre Dame. They did whatever they wanted. There were guys wide open, 8-yard pass, easy first down, on and on and on. Notre Dame had huge chunk plays. Florida State didn't make it easy for North Carolina. North Carolina still scored, but they weren't given easy yards and easy points. They had to go earn almost all of them with great catches and great throws. But overall, it all started up front. And you got to think, okay, if Marvin's going to be like that, if Durden's going to play like that, and you get him for the whole Louisville game, Dennis Briggs, welcome back, big man. All he does is win. My man's 1-0. He hasn't tasted a loss this year. So you have him. You get Fabian Lovett back, you assume, at some point. And if J-Rob and Kendo can play anywhere close to that for the rest of the year, well, now you start to feel, all right, you got yourself a defensive line. And I think that's the key to the whole thing.
Yeah, if you go back, Adam Fuller said it a couple of weeks ago, and he was trying to walk that line, be careful about what he described in terms of his defense. But he basically noted and called him out. If my defensive line doesn't play, it doesn't really matter what scheme I run behind them. We can't make stops. And he's not wrong about that. I sat on this show and said, look, they're well coached. It's not scheme, everybody. It's the players. And I hate blaming college players. We all do. But if guys aren't going to play hard and they're not going to play consistent, you have really no chance to win because you're average at linebacker. And then, again, if you're not getting any pressure, quarterbacks are going to make plays against your secondary. So the fact that they're playing hard, that there's real buy-in there, you got Marvin playing like Marvin now, like we expected him to. Durden looks like he's getting back into shape and really consistent effort there. Coop's good. You saw Kendo play better than he really ever has here in this football game. They've got a chance to get better each week now. I guess when we consider all of this big picture, guys, the football program has been reeling for several years now, 3 years to be sure. Down seasons, basically anytime they play anybody who's any good at all, certainly any ranked team, they get blown out. They're made to look foolish. What does it mean now to win a game like this against a quality opponent? And then also the way that they did it, held on for dear life. They got the win. They had a huge lead, but they do win the game. So now for coaches and players, confidence grows moving forward in 2020. Either of you can take this one. What did that win mean for this program and these coaches and players?
We'll see. I think it meant a lot. Again, I don't expect them to run the table. They're 2-3 still, and there's a reason they're 2-3. They're not a great football team, and so bad football teams or average football teams find ways to lose some coin flip games, which they'll have moving forward. But I think what it shows them is the ceiling, and it shows them, man, how can you not believe in this coaching staff? Football practice is hard, Jeff. You've said that all the time. It's not fun. It's not always fun to practice football. But if you're practicing football for a coaching staff that you don't believe in, well, then it seems it's not fun and it seems pointless. Like, these guys don't know what they're doing. They're not making me any better. I'm not developing, and we're not getting better as a football team. Well, buddy, I don't know how a person on that roster, after what they look like in South Florida, 3 weeks later, to beat a number 5 team in the country and be up 31-7.5, they all got to be like amongst themselves, like, wow, we made a good hire. These guys know what they're doing. And I do think I think players talk like that. And I think moving forward, just the belief in a coaching staff and that they're telling you the right thing to do. And if you do everything they tell you to do as far as buying in and on and off the field and all the pillars of Norvell's program, you're going to see the results. And the fact that they saw the results so quickly. I mean, I knew a game like this would come eventually, maybe 2026, the way this thing had been going. But for it to come in week 5, and really the Notre Dame game, to even compete and be competitive in that game, and then to go and win the next game, yeah, they should be all in with this guy. And that's a huge thing.
And he promised they'd be good on special teams, and they're one of the best special teams units in the country. So, again, that's proof of concept, right, Gene? That's big for donors. That's big for recruiting, I would think. That's big for credibility amongst all that are invested in Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, this is a program that has suffered through 3 straight years of just horrible mediocrity. And 2 weeks ago, Jeff, I mentioned on the show, and I went through the last 6 games against top 12 opponents. They couldn't get within 3 touchdowns of any of those games. Mm-hmm. And they go out against Notre Dame, and they finally do that. They finally, at least it's somewhat competitive. They get within that margin. And then, heck, the next week they go in and they beat a top 5 team. I mean, I get it. North Carolina's probably not really that good, but they're a quality FBS program. We talked about baby steps. They took a Superman leap in 1 week. And to Corey's point, yeah, there's still going to be ups and downs in this thing. But, man, you gave the fans hope. That's powerful, because then it goes to the other thing. That's the next step to build this program financially. This is a program financially that's in big trouble. $27 million estimated losses for this year. Well, you know what? Those donors are feeling a little bit better about making those contributions now. Season tickets, I'm guessing, assuming they continue to build on this for next year, are going to go up. People are more going to be prideful wearing their Florida State gear. They're going to want to buy that. It all benefits the program. And then the other aspects, recruiting, I mentioned a dozen times with the pandemic. Mike Norvell's not a big name. He wasn't Bob Stoops. The only way he can sell his program is either A, meet these recruits in person and let them convince them, look, what I can do. He can't do that. So there's only one other way, and that's putting a product on the field that is marketable. It's marketable now. People recruiting against you can't say it's a horrible program, it's going nowhere. They go, wait a minute, they just beat North Carolina. They competed with Notre Dame. He's got them going in the right direction. So there are going to be benefits in recruiting as well for this.
Well, in order to keep it going, obviously you got to continue to play well, got to find more wins. There are wins on this schedule. You don't feel hopeless anymore. One of those could happen this weekend against Louisville. Malik Cunningham led at quarterback. We'll take a look at this Louisville offense and the defense, the opponent for the Noles this Saturday when we come back on the Warchant.com report.
Are you the ultimate FSU fan? We're your ultimate Seminole sports source. Subscribe to Warchant TV, where we bring to life the award-winning website, Warchant.com. Here you will find added opinion and analysis from the #1 team on the Florida State beat, a staff that brings over 50 years combined experience right to your phone or mobile device. Unmatched digital storytelling, original recruiting content, access to the top prospects in the nation, unflinching post-game wrap-ups, and the daily podcast Wake Up Warchant. All free of charge every day right here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and use the promo code WARCHANT30 for a risk-free 30-day trial of premium access to Warchant.com, home to the most active, passionate FSU community online, featuring exclusive insider access you won't find anywhere else. You're the ultimate Florida State fan? Connect to Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. Florida State and Louisville. Louisville wins their first game against Western Kentucky. They haven't won a game since. They've been a weird team. They're 1-4. Malik Cunningham got an awful lot of hype before the season began at quarterback. I've seen him play up to this point. He's been bitterly disappointing. I don't think he's very good at all. At running back, Javian Hawkins is a good player. It'll be interesting to see what gives in this game, because Louisville just got a very good defensive performance against Notre Dame, which seemingly came out of nowhere. Meanwhile, offensively, they only scored 7 points. That was the side of the ball they thought they'd be good at this year. Florida State got a great offensive performance and improved defensive performance, so still kind of don't know what these two teams are at this point. 1-4 is Louisville, as I mentioned. They played Pitt. Obviously played Notre Dame close this past weekend in a 12-7 game. You know, by the way, guys, just 6 drives for Louisville the entire game against Notre Dame. That's insane.
It's crazy. Well, Notre Dame only had 7, obviously. Just a weird game.
Weird game. Hard to get a read on it. I watched a lot of that game. You can look at the stats, but you'll talk about Cunningham and Hawkins, the two in the backfield, quarterback and running back. They've averaged more than 100 yards per game. Tutu Atwell is a real talent. He has 4 touchdowns on the year. Gene, I guess I'll start with you. Your thoughts here on what we should expect from Malik Cunningham. He had a pretty good game against Florida State last year, nearly 300 yards and a couple touchdowns. But your thoughts on what he means to this team and what this Louisville offense is?
Yeah, I think that's one of the main reasons why Louisville's been disappointing this year is Cunningham's regression. He doesn't look like the same guy as last year. I think he has 5 picks. I think he had 5 all of last season. So he's really struggling right now, which is very odd. Because he's got some weapons. Tutu's a speedy guy. You don't want to have this guy in open space. He's going to be a problem. And remember last year, they still have Des Fitzpatrick, killed Florida State last year, had 130 yards receiving, 7 catches. And, of course, if Florida State's playing a team, they have to have a solid tight end. And, yes, Louisville does, and Marshawn Ford. He's a red zone monster, 4 touchdowns in the red zone. I can guarantee you he's going to get some looks, and Florida State always seems to struggle against tight ends. So he's got some weapons. You just worry, will he suddenly start clicking against Florida State? Because that's what quarterbacks do when they play Florida State.
Well, they're going to want to run the ball, Corey. Javian Hawkins is who they'll do that with. Your thoughts on what we see there in terms of slowing down this Louisville rushing attack? Florida State feels a little bit better about themselves on that defensive front right now. They're not always in the right run fits at linebacker, but they're playing faster and they're triggering a little bit. What do you think we'll see against the run this weekend against Louisville?
Well, if it can be like what it was for stretches of that Carolina game, look, Carolina can run the ball and ran the ball pretty well against Florida State at times, especially in the first half, but not to the point of any points. The Hawkins kid's awesome. I like him. He's really fun to watch. I know he probably won't be fun for you guys to watch on Saturday, but he's an electric guy. And he is a dude that can turn a 9-yard gain into a 70-yard gain. He's just a tough guy to tackle, a tough guy to bring down. And when you don't have great linebackers, which nobody would argue that Florida State does, that is not a great matchup. I think they're going to, I guess you go into every game. Satterfield especially is going to try to run the ball, but especially in this game, And it also shortens the game, which might be a negative for Louisville or might be a negative for Florida State. Who knows? But the Hawkins kid is legit. He's legit. I don't think their offensive line is great. He makes them look better than they are. Maybe like what Jordan Travis does with the Florida State offensive line. This guy is really dynamic as a running back, and that's what they're going to be trying to do. They'll take some shots because Fitzpatrick is a huge kid, and the Atwell kid, he's really good. He's a special wide receiver. So, they have some weapons. And look, we know this Florida State defense. We know they're improved, but they were coming from such an awful place that just to get to where they are now, they're still probably just mediocre. But it's so much better than god-awful, oh, my God, what is this? Which is what they were for the first two and a half games of the season. So there's going to be some points. There's going to be some yardage. Louisville's too talented. Florida State doesn't have Notre Dame's defense. Louisville will score more than 7 points.
So if you look at Louisville defensively, they're a weird team. They gave up a gazillion yards and points to Georgia Tech. Obviously gave up a ton of points to Miami as well. You just talk about that Notre Dame game, so few possessions. The game was played at a snail's pace, and Notre Dame had just 7 possessions, and they held them to just 12 points. So they got to be proud about that effort. Pitt's offense isn't nearly as explosive as some of the other teams they've faced. So the fact that they didn't give up a ton of points to Pitt, I don't know that I give them a ton of credit for that. Not in love with this Louisville defense, but it's hard to figure out what they are and why. Corey, can you figure out what's the difference between one game to the next with this Louisville defense where they look good and then they look awful?
No, and I watched the highlights. I didn't watch much of the Louisville Notre Dame game, but I saw the highlights, and then I look at the box score because I just couldn't fathom it. Like, what? 12 points? How did this work? And then you see, Notre Dame had 7 possessions. 2 of them were 14-play drives that went 70 yards, but they settled for field goals. Another one was a 90-yard drive that they lost on downs, and then they had another 70-yard drive that was a touchdown. But they had 7 drives. They scored on 3 of them. Another one, they went 90 yards and didn't score. So it wasn't like just because they, in 2020, if you hold a team to 12 points, you're like, my gosh, you might be the best defense in the country. It was a bizarre game. Just so limited number of opportunities for both teams. So they did do a good job of not letting Notre Dame hit the home runs. Florida State did not do that. Notre Dame had 40, 50-yard plays all over the first half. So it's hard to see. I think they're going to pressure. Their linebackers are where they get their pressure from. They had 4 sacks in that game against Notre Dame. 3 were from linebackers. Their 2 leading sackers are both linebackers. So I think they're going to blitz. I think that's what they do. They like to bring pressure. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced just because of the Notre Dame game that they turned some corner. I just think it was it might have just been a weird one-off with only Louisville had the ball for a ton on offense. So you're only on the field for – you're only in the field for 7 possessions. So it's hard to say, okay, they've turned the corner. Well, we'll see, but that was one weird game.
Gene, best way to move the ball against this Louisville defense. I do note that they're giving up still nearly 180 yards a game on the ground. What do you look at here for Florida State trying to move the ball against this Louisville defense?
Well, I think that's it. As Corey mentioned, they do have some good linebackers, so that's kind of the strength of the defense. But you're right. Last 3 games, the common thread is Notre Dame gave up 232, 192 yards to Georgia Tech, 158 to Pitt. You can run on this team. And Florida State, the last 3 games, has run the ball really well. Mm-hmm. So right there, you want to do that. Man, you can take just a little bit of pressure off of Jordan Travis and move the sticks, man. That does wonders for that offense because what you don't want to get is he has to be in a known passing situation. But, man, you can open that up a little bit. So, yeah, if you can establish someone, and I think you have. Look what we've seen out of Damian Webb, how well he's played. The coaches this week talked about getting Tola Feely some more playing time out there. I'd like to see that as well. He's an explosive, exciting kid. So I really do think this is a team you can run on and not just the quarterback. We love to see the quarterback run, but I'd like to see more out of the running backs to take some pressure off of Jordan Travis.
Defenses are going to begin to play Florida State differently, guys, and everybody out there watching, because here's the thing. Now Florida State has clearly identified what they want to be. They're a spread option team that relies on Jordan Travis to read and make plays with his legs. That's what he does. They stay ahead of the chains because of that. We'll see if Louisville's the first team to make an adjustment to what the new Florida State offense has revealed itself to be. It should be fascinating. Obviously, Florida State has to run the ball to have any success throwing the football. That's how they set all of those big plays up down the field with the running game. This is newfound territory for Florida State. That's right. They win a football game, one where they're severe underdogs, one against a ranked team. Now all of a sudden, some changes to expectations. We'll look at that moving forward for Florida State this weekend against Louisville when the Warchant.com report returns. Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. Do not forget, pregame show this weekend on Warchant TV, YouTube. That's the feed you want to go to. Myself, Tom Lang, will do the pregame show this Saturday leading up to the noon kickoff against Louisville, and the postgame show also on Warchant TV right there on YouTube. Gene Williams, Tom Lang, you guys can call in. You can ask questions. They'll try to get to those as well. So, again, postgame show, Warchant TV on YouTube. For Florida State, unfamiliar territory, the Noles coming off a win versus a top 15 opponent since the 2016 Orange Bowl. Guys, either one of you, panel, here we go. How do you think Florida State responds? How important is it for Florida State to respond and build on this success? And obviously, you'd like to think that it's going to help in recruiting if they're able to do so as well.
Yeah, I have no idea how they're going to respond. How could anyone? We've never been here. Literally, their last top 5 win was 14. The last time they beat a top 5 team when they were unranked was Boston College in 2007 with Matty Ice going to Geno Hayes. Remember that, Matty Ice? Hadn't done anything since that game either. Ruined them as a quarterback. So I don't know how they're going to respond, but it is important. This will say a lot how they come out. It's not easy necessarily, but it's easier to come out and play with that urgency, that ferocity, the physical nature they played on defense, and to be all jacked up because you're at home. It's national TV. You got a top 5 team in there, and you started well. So it's easy to play hard when you start well and you feel good about yourself. How are you going to do on the road? I know there's not many people there, but on the road, noon against a not top 5 team. How do you answer that challenge? Look, Florida State's still an underdog. This doesn't necessarily have to be the case of them having a layover, a hangover from that game, from the win. They're not good enough to go out and just dominate people. They're not. But you just want to see them play with the same urgency and play hard. If you get some bad breaks, if you have a couple strip sacks or fumbles or whatever, and you lose the game, but you played hard and you played well for the most part, I think, again, that's something to build on. You've got to stack on these types of performances. You don't want to. You're not okay with a loss ever, except against Clemson. You're just not okay with it. But if you can play hard and keep showing the fan base and yourselves that you're buying into this, I think that's the biggest thing you look for.
I can't imagine, Gene, they don't continue to play hard. I mean, they were playing hard when they were getting beat down by Notre Dame. They played, to me, that was the beginning of the real buy-in there. You could even argue, go all the way back to Miami. They still played hard in the second half. They weren't good enough, and the game was already decided, but they were still playing hard. If they take that kind of a step back and don't play hard, I'll be pretty upset. I think they'll play hard, but I think it's important to continue to play well and continue to create momentum. I think they have it on offense. I need to continue to see improvement on this defense. That's an area where they can take huge leaps.
Yeah, and I agree with Corey. I mean, about just playing hard. And I think you will. I mean, now you saw what happened. You practice hard, you play hard, good things happen. So I think now they bought in. So I think that's not going to be the issue. And what's exciting is I can't believe it's exciting to think they could go into the break, the bye week, with being a 500 team. It's hard to believe we'd be excited about that. But a couple of weeks ago, that didn't seem very likely. So, I mean, that's a positive step right there. And I mentioned in the last segment, hope. All you want to do is keep that hope, keep the fans engaged, the recruits engaged, look like you're making progress. Like you said, play hard, and then good things will come from that. So that's all that matters. You may lose this week to Louisville. I wouldn't be shocked if they lost. But again, you're competitive. You look good. You look like you're making some progress. That winning's a bonus. But again, until you get to those games in November, we've talked about before, I want to see them winning 2 or 3 of those games in November. And then Florida State has accomplished, Mike Norvell has accomplished what he set out to do in year 1.
I think this game sets up to be a war. Louisville's desperate to win a game here. They've lost 4 straight. Florida State just gathered some momentum. They understand you can lay it all on the line because you're going into a break, as you guys just alluded to. It's a bye week coming up. You don't have anything to kind of prepare for other than you get to rest up after this a little bit, and then let's move forward after the break, and you got some winnable games there too. This is momentum building for both programs. Louisville lost to Florida State even when Florida State was terrible a year ago and the year before that as well. So they've got to be tired of Florida State. This should be an absolute war. I feel good about this game. I like Florida State to continue the momentum here. We've got picks to make, so we'll eventually get to our game here. Let's start with, and it's not a great week, guys, Alabama's at Tennessee. Tennessee's revealed themselves to be fraudulent. They're not back. They're not even close to back. They just got blown out by Kentucky. In fact, they look terrible. Alabama big. It's 21 is the spread. I know it could be a letdown game for Alabama having just vanquished Georgia, but I don't think so. Tennessee can't throw the football. Give me Alabama minus 21.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I hate giving away that many points, but I don't see how Tennessee stays with it. I mean, even if Alabama's offense doesn't play all that well, they're going to score 40. I mean, they're 38 or 40. Those receivers are nuts. Georgia didn't even play that poorly on defense, and you just can't stop some of those dudes. They're awesome. Those receivers are awesome. So and Tennessee, what kind of confidence are they having on offense? They just scored a big whopping 7 against Kentucky.
Yeah. No, that's an easy one. You guys said it all. Tennessee's awful. Alabama's pretty darn good. So it's an easy one.
Darn good again. I like North Carolina to bounce back here and drub NC State, especially since Bailey Hockman, is starting for NC State. He's terrible. They got really no chance there. I'll take North Carolina to roll big, maybe even by 30. I'll give the 16.
Don't think there's the FSU hangover, Jeff, after that? Come on.
No, I think they can sleepwalk and beat NC State.
All right, I'll buy in with you. I'll go Tar Heels on that.
No, I like NC State here. I think it's going to be closer than that. I think North Carolina might have gotten a little reality slapped into them, like, oh, maybe we're not as good as that number that was next to us. And NC State's going to play hard. Bailey Hoggman, I've always said, is a gamer.
Have you seen Bailey Hoggman play?
He's actually right-handed. He's been setting everybody up. He's going to come out throwing with the other arm. Bailey Hoggman hasn't been great, but I just feel like these rivalry games, Jeff, you never know, man. You never know, and that's a big rivalry game. Huge. One of the biggest ones in the country.
The country will be locked in. Yes. All right. Syracuse is at Clemson. God bless them.
What's the spread? I didn't even look. Is it
46.5? I'm going to take Syracuse plus 46.5 on principle. I think that Clemson will get up by 30, maybe in the first quarter, and begin to hand the ball off. I'll take Syracuse.
Nope, they didn't do that against Georgia Tech, did they?
Yeah, they didn't. But they will.
Dabo had something. Dabo was upset about something.
He's not a fan of Georgia Tech.
No. So if they didn't do that against Georgia Tech, and he's lost to Syracuse before, I feel like you're going to see more of the same. So I guess I'm going to give 46.5.
I'm going to take 46.5. I'm going to do that.
I'm going to take Clemson minus 7 touchdowns. Unbelievable.
Wow. Well, I don't know. 50's where I cut it off, but under 50, yep, I'm with you, man. I'll take those, man. If they made it 50, I'm not taking you Clemson, but to that point, man, like you said, man, even against the backups, they were running it up against Georgia Tech. They couldn't stop them. Syracuse is not any better. They may be worse.
I'll take Syracuse plus 46.5.
All right.
Ridiculous amount of points. We have no idea who to pick here because none of us have seen either of these two teams play. So I'm going to go by reputation. Ohio State minus 26 against Nebraska. I feel like the Big Ten has it out this year for Nebraska. They couldn't stop talking. The Big Ten said, all right, you want to play football? Here you go. Here's Ohio State, here's Penn State, here's Wisconsin. Have some fun with that to start your year. I'll take Ohio State minus 26 against Nebraska.
I'm taking the Huskers. I like the Huskers in this one. Not to win, probably, but Ohio State always seems to start a little slow. And we're almost in November, and they're starting their season finally. So I just think I'm expecting it to be a closer, kind of sloppy game, and that gives Nebraska a chance. So plus 26.
I'm with Corey. I mean, it's the first game after all the craziness that's gone on. It's just so many unexpected things. It seems like it's going to be sloppy, probably a little bit lower scoring. So, just too many points for that. Give me the Huskers.
I'm flipping a coin on the game. I will not be betting it on my real card. All right. Virginia's at Miami. Virginia's not very good. I'll take Miami. I'll give the 11.
Man, you're just giving all the points, are you? Have you taken an underdog yet? You're just giving all
46.5 with Syracuse.
Oh, that's right. Well, come on, that didn't count. I guess I will say Miami too. Virginia every time I look at a Virginia game, they have a dude wearing like 82 playing quarterback or 38. They have a fullback or a tight end playing quarterback. I'm surprised they don't have somebody in the 50s taking snaps. So I'm gonna take Miami and give 11. I think Derek King will do enough, and I just don't think that Virginia offense is good enough to stay competitive.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hate taking Miami. I think they're a little overrated, but Virginia's just bad. And, Derek King, I think he'll play well against bad teams. So, they probably just barely cover that.
All right, now comes the good game. Here we go. Do we keep it going or not, boys? I've got Florida State plus the 5. I like Florida State to go in there and win the game. Wrong team's favored. Florida State should be favored in this game. They own Louisville. They beat them even when they're terrible. They'll beat them again this year. Big win for the Noles. It's back-to-back victories heading into the bye week.
My only concern, and it's a legitimate one, is the health of Jordan Travis.
Well, that's fair.
The way he looked at the end of that game, although he looked very similar at the end of the Notre Dame game, and I think this is just what we're going to do watching Jordan Travis. It's like, hey, he might not play. He looked banged up. If he's not 100% and isn't able to run, I think he'd still play even with a banged up left shoulder. But if you eliminate or at least slow down his running attack because of his running ability because of an injury, that really limits what Florida State will do offensively, and that's my concern. That said, he's a gamer. He's good. He's going to play. We all think he's going to play. And if not, Chuba's debut is going to be something for the ages either way. So I'll take Florida State plus 5 as well. I think
no score. They're going to win.
I guess though. I'll predict them to win 30-29.
Wow, great minds, Corey. I just wrote down 30-27. You know what's going to be? Final play, Parker Grodehouse. Game winner, baby.
No, okay.
Noles run out of there, go to the bye week 3-3.
Certainly ain't going to be Fitzgerald.
No, that's what I said. Grodehouse is going to be the guy now.
Hey, by the way, really quick, before we sign off, and I'll remind everybody before we do sign off to listen to watch the pregame show and listen to it on 97.9 ESPN Radio or watch it simultaneously. Who knows? You can do it both on Warchant TV on YouTube, Tom Lang and myself, and then the post-game show as well with Gene Williams and Tom Lang after the game is over right there on Warchant TV on YouTube. You know, Corey, you kind of alluded to it, but I do want everybody's opinion here. There's no doubt, right, with what they're now running with this spread option, if Jordan Travis is hurt and has to miss any time at all, they go straight to Chuba Purdy here. You cannot go back to James Blackman, and you certainly can't go to Tate Rodemaker. This becomes Chuba Purdy's team if for some reason Jordan Travis goes down, right?
Yeah, or Travis J. I don't care. Give me somebody back there that can run. But, I do think it goes to Chuba just because you've now designed an entire offense around a particular skill set. And we don't know how good Chuba is. He's never taken a snap in college. But we know he has similar skill sets. He is a runner. He is an effective runner. He's fast. I don't know if he's as dynamic as Jordan Travis is because this kid is special when he runs the ball. He's just got something to him. But, yes, I think it's more of a seamless transition from Jordan Travis to Chuba Purdy's skill set, a guy that can move the ball, as opposed to 2 6'4" statues. The offense isn't the same. You have to completely revamp things. And you hadn't practiced that all week.
Oh, it sounds like, listen, you and I are in agreement here. It sounds like that's what we want. Gene, do you think that's what they would do?
I think they have to do it. You know, you said that's all you're doing in practice. And now, you know, we've talked to like Cam McDonald earlier this week. He talked about how with more reps in practice, they're learning how to the scramble drill, how they're learning to do all these different things with a mobile quarterback. And then suddenly that all goes away if you bring it to Tate or James. I just don't think that's the way to go. And, you know, this is the future. I think this is the offense Mike Norvell wants to run. I think you're just taking a huge step back. Even if you think there's a slightly better chance with James, I just think in the long run, you got to buy in on this system and go all the way forward. So I think that is what they would do. Now let's hope Jordan's healthy and that's not an issue. But if it is, then yeah, I agree. I think you got to bring in the freshman.
For Corey Clark and Gene Williams, I'm Jeff Cameron. Our thanks to Aslan as well and all of you for watching. Until next time, go Noles. Talk to you next time on the Warchant.com report. Be well, everybody.